good idea. Do I just start in at this point? Sorry.
I think you can call the meeting to order. Yep.
Okay. Good evening. I call the 61st annual meeting of the Lisbon Community Federal Credit Union to order. At this time, I would like to introduce the Board of Directors, committee members, staff, and guests. First, your Board of Directors. We have Ms. Heather Pickard, Vice Chairperson, Mrs. Brenda Rogers, Secretary, Mr. George Roy, Treasurer, Mr. Dan Michel, Mr. Timothy Plummer, Mr. Ronald Partridge, and I am your Chairperson, Jessica Malloy. For the Supervisory Committee, we have Mr. Daniel Michel, Chairperson, Mr. Mark Stevens, Mr. Richard Bayou, Mrs. Tammy Bard, and Mr. Ross Cunningham. Employees who are present at this meeting are Lorraine Turcott, Vice President, Denise Doobie, Operations Manager, Jason Hilt, Accounting and Information Systems Manager, Vicki LaJoy, Marketing Officer, and James Hatch, Information Systems Officer. Thank you all for attending. I will now give the Chairperson's report. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your 61st annual meeting. My name is Jessica Malloy, and once again, it has been my honor and pleasure to have served as your chairman of the Board of Directors of Lisbon Community Federal Credit Union for the past year. This year's annual report feels a little different for me. My focus is really on what has happened since the close of our 2019 year. On March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that the COVID-19 outbreak can be characterized as a pandemic. On March 13, 2020, President Trump declared that the COVID-19 pandemic constitutes a national emergency. This pandemic has forced us to change the way we do business. Prior to this pandemic, we prided ourselves on personal service with an emphasis on face-to-face interaction. During this pandemic, we've had to adapt. We now have plexiglass barriers between our employees and members. We are doing more by telephone, more by drive-through, and more by our home banking and mobile banking services. Management informs us that the membership has responded well to these changes. We thank you for that. The threat to our health is real, it is serious, and it affects all of us. Frequent hand washing, face covering, not touching your face, and maintaining 6 feet of social distancing are simple steps that have helped our community to slow the spread of the coronavirus. It is under these guidelines and expectation that we do our part to follow social distancing recommendations that the Board of Directors took the action to hold our 61st annual meeting on a virtual platform. It is important to know that this decision does not impact your ability to engage in the governance of your credit union. The platform we are using will allow you to raise your hand and ask questions through the chat feature. It will also allow you to vote when requested in the same manner. This pandemic will likely require the Board of Directors to rethink some of our longer-term strategic initiatives. In addition to our continued investment in technology, we will likely need to look at workflows and building designs to maximize the safety and health of employees and members. I want to thank the entire Lisbon Community Federal Credit Union team for their ongoing due diligence while maintaining day-to-day operations. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to taking care of our resources and helping to build a great community. In closing, my fellow directors and I are committed to maintaining a solvent financial institution, committed to investing in technology that will provide you with the products and services you need, and committed to creating a friendly and safe place for you to conduct your financial transactions. Respectfully submitted, Jessica Malloy, Chairperson. You have now heard the report of the chairperson. Are there any questions? As a reminder, there are a couple of ways you can ask questions. One is to raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon to the right of your screen. Once you do, we will unmute you so that you can ask your question. The other way is to use the chat option. To use the chat option, click on the chat in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and type your question, and we will be happy to answer it for you. If there are no questions, please answer the polling question that is asking you whether or not you accept the chairperson's report as presented. Okay. The next item of business is the Treasurer's report. I call on George Roy for his report.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Who would have guessed when we postponed the annual meeting back in March that we would be holding a virtual meeting like this today? My task is to review the credit union's 2019 financial performance. On the left of your screen, you will find our comparative balance sheet. Under Assets, the first thing we would like to highlight is the growth in loans. Note how loans grew from about $72 million at the end of 2018 to almost $78.7 million at the end of 2019. This $6.7 million increase equates to loan growth of 9.29% for the year, which is fantastic. The second line we'd like to highlight is total deposits, found towards the bottom of the balance sheet. Total deposits also grew during 2019 from slightly above $97 million at the beginning of the year to $104 million as of December 31st, 2019. This difference is $6.9 million, or a growth rate of slightly above 7%. This is also excellent deposit growth. We accomplished in 2019 what we strive for every year, but rarely achieve: healthy levels of balanced growth, with loans and deposits growing by relatively the same amount. More often than not, we will report strong loan growth one year or strong deposit growth, but not necessarily both at the same time. Transferring our attention to the comparative income statement, the report on the right side of your screen. We are pleased to report our total income increased by slightly more than $500,000 during 2019. This growth occurred partly due to the increase in loans and partly due to an increase in market rates of interest. Moving down the income sheet, we find total expenses increasing from $3.7 million in 2018 to about $4 million in 2019. Further down, we find dividend expense. We paid $725,000 in dividend expense in 2019. Net income for the year ending 2019, was a very healthy $1,039,000, which was slightly below what we earned in 2018. Some of you may be wondering how your credit union has performed since COVID-19 hit during the middle part of 2020. The short answer is loan demand and loan growth stopped overnight, and the COVID-19 stimulus checks that our members received have caused our deposits to grow by $20 million. As far as lending is concerned, 5 months into this pandemic, loan demand is slowly getting back to pre-COVID levels. While we are on the subject of COVID-19, I would like to emphasize and highlight the efforts of the credit union staff during this pandemic. They reported to work every day when many of their friends who worked elsewhere stayed home. They were at the office answering the phones when our members needed assistance. They served members at our drive-up locations. They found innovative ways to originate and close loans. They all had to adapt to serving our members differently. There is no playbook on how credit unions should serve members during a pandemic. No YouTube video on what to do. Changes were made on the fly, and our staff responded. We are proud of them, and we ask that you please take the time to thank them the next time you visit one of our offices. I will end this year's presentation by mentioning a data processing upgrade that will take place on November 1st of this year. We are moving to a totally new system that will put us in a better position to serve you in the years to come. This change will impact all members. Statements will change. Receipts will change. How our employees process transactions will change. Everything is changing. We have begun planning for this change, and employees will begin training on the new system next month. More information will be provided to you as we approach the November 1st date. We ask for your patience and understanding during this transition. Respectfully submitted, George Roy, Treasurer.
Thank you. You have heard the report of the Treasurer. Are there any questions regarding this report? Feel free to click on Raise Your Hand and we will unmute you, or click on Chat and type in your question. If there are no questions, please answer the polling question that is asking you whether or not you accept the Treasurer's report as presented. The next item of business is the report of loan officers. I call on Lorraine Turcott, Vice President, for her report.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our 61st annual meeting and our first virtual annual meeting. As stellar a year as 2019 was for our loan department, I would be remiss if I didn't talk briefly about the global pandemic and how this is affecting all of us. Unemployment is in the double digits, and no one knows when or if we will return to normal. Even if we do return to normal, we may see a resurgence in COVID cases later on. In light of this fast pandemic, the credit union was quick in responding to members who faced the difficulty of paying their bills without a paycheck. We expanded our Skip-a-Pay program on autos, personal and recreational vehicle loans, and designed a program for mortgages that had previously never existed. This program provided members up to 3 months of relief from loan payments. Many of the extensions bumped the due date to July, so now that we are in August, we may begin to see the true impact of the pandemic. Another factor that hurt many members locally was at the BIW strike, which lasted almost 2 months. This, on top of the COVID-related economic uncertainty, has been very troubling for many members. All in all, there is much uncertainty in the world today, but together we will get through this. As I mentioned earlier, 2019 was a stellar year for our lending department. We are pleased to share that thanks to your commitment and loyalty to the credit union, 2019 was our best year ever. Our loan officers processed 1,776 loan applications, of which 1,506, or 84% of the applications, were approved. The total loans dispersed for all loans was almost $29.97 million. This was a record year for dollars loaned, and we thought that 2018 was a great year when we approved $23.8 million in loans. Included in loans dispersed for 2019 were 117 fixed-rate mortgage loans totaling $9.2 million, 513 auto loans totaling $9.6 million, and 656 personal loans totaling $3.9 million. As Mr. Roy mentioned in his report, in 2019, total loans outstanding increased by $6.7 million, or 9.2%. And the credit union finished the year with a loan portfolio of $78.7 million. As these numbers indicate, we had incredible loan growth for the year. And with this loan growth comes the inevitable loan risk. While we saw very little or very low charge-offs and delinquencies in 2019, the fact of the matter is that we know it will not stay that way, especially in these trying times, and we need to be prepared for that. The credit union works closely with our members to meet their needs while promoting the wise use of credit. We are pleased to have helped so many members while keeping losses at low levels. The quality of our loan portfolio is measured by the amount of delinquent loans and loan charge-offs. Your credit union continues to maintain a high-quality loan portfolio with a net loan charge-off of 0.09%, much lower than our peers who were at 0.46%. And our delinquency ratio ended the year at a low 0.3959%, again, well below our peers who were at 0.76%. This delinquency ratio means that 99.6% of our loans are paid as agreed. Indeed, 2019 was an outstanding year for all of our lending programs. We are pleased by our significant achievements, but there is much more work ahead. We look forward to the challenges of 2020 and helping our members meet their financial needs and goals. We pledge to serve your needs in the same manner and friendly atmosphere to which you have become accustomed to over the years. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our loan officers, Robin, Lonnie, Rick, and Jessica, Tracy, our Financial Resolutions Officer, and Derek, our loan clerk, for the quality service they provide our members. I would also like to thank all of you for your loyalty and support. It is because of you that we are able to help each other in our communities. Respectfully submitted, Lorraine Turcott, Vice President.
Thank you. You have heard the report of loan officers. Are there any questions regarding this report? Again, feel free to click on the raise your hand and we will unmute you, or click on the chat and type in your question. If there are no questions, please answer the polling question that is asking you whether or not you accept the report of loan officers as presented. The next item on the agenda is the Supervisory Committee report. I call on Dan Michel for his report.
Our annual meeting. The Supervisory Committee is made up of 5 members who meet on a monthly basis. We come into both the main office and the Lisbon branch at various other times. It is our role to perform monthly and quarterly audits of the many various business functions that are conducted. With some audits, we actually do count money, but with most audits, we will send mailings or review forms. We do dozens of audits. We are also responsible to meet with any member who needs assistance in resolving an issue with the credit union. We were not called on for that service this past year, and I believe strongly that that is a great reflection of the fine service provided by our staff. Our committee is also responsible for a full financial audit to be conducted annually by an independent third party. This was done in January by Whitley McDonald Page, and we received an excellent report from them. In closing, I wish to thank our staff for all their help, and thank you, the members, for allowing us to serve. Your trust and confidence in us is not taken lightly. Submitted on behalf of Mark Stevens, Rich Bayou, Tammy Bard, Ross Cunningham, and myself, Dan Michel, Chairman of the Supervisory Committee.
Thank you. You have heard the report of the Supervisory Committee. Are there any questions regarding this report? Feel free to click on the raise your hand and we will unmute you, or click on the chat and type in your question. If there are no questions, please answer the polling question that is asking you whether or not to accept the Supervisory Committee report as presented. It is our pleasure to report on the results of our staff's yearly fundraising efforts. We ask Vicki LaJoy, the credit union's marketing officer, to report on the staff's activities in this area.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Social Responsibility Committee, I am pleased to announce that in 2019, the Lisbon Credit Union raised $17,709.78 to assist local organizations in their fight against hunger in Maine. These funds were donated to the Lisbon Area Christian Outreach and Trinity Jubilee Center. As many of you know, the Lisbon Credit Union has been part of the Maine Credit Union's campaign for ending hunger for 8 consecutive years. This campaign was established in 1990 by the Maine Credit Union League. The mission was to bring Maine's credit unions together with one common goal: to help fight hunger in Maine by supporting the organizations that feed those in need. Together since 1990, Maine credit unions have raised over $8 million for food pantries across the state. We continue to stay dedicated to this cause because hunger in Maine is a serious and ongoing issue. The credit union organized various fundraisers throughout 2019, including Employee Gene Days, 50/50 raffles, a cash calendar, our very popular annual bake sale, and the sales of goat milk products and candy bars. The Lisbon Area Christian Outreach, also known as LACO, has served the Lisbon community since 1985. It is sponsored by churches of various denominations located in the Lisbon, Durham, and Bowdoin communities. LACO provides a food pantry and clothing bank for individuals who are facing financial hardships and are in need of assistance. The Lisbon Credit Union is donating 75% of the funds raised to the LACO Food Pantry, which in the past has used these funds solely to fund a summer food program for kids who count on breakfasts and lunches at school during the year and have no resources during school vacations. Our donation of $13,282.34 was sent to LACO in March of this year. Our second recipient, Trinity Jubilee Center, serves the Lewiston-Auburn area. The mission of the Jubilee Center is to address unmet needs of underserved people through services that include meals program, food pantry, outreach, a warming center, and refugee assistance. To honor our Lewiston presence, the credit union has donated 25% of the funds raised to this organization. Our donation of $4,427.44 was sent to Jubilee Trinity Center in March of this year. We are proud to be a part of this important credit union initiative. For 2020, the Lisbon Credit Union is again raising funds for the Ending Hunger campaign. This year poses a few challenges, but we still hope to raise as much as we can. Thank you to LACO and Trinity Jubilee for staying true to your mission of feeding our hungry. The credit union would also like to thank you, our generous members, and staff who contributed to our fundraisers. Your kind donations are very much appreciated. Thank you. Respectfully submitted, Vicki LaJoy, Marketing Officer.
Vicki, on behalf of the Board of Directors, congratulations to you and the credit union staff for the work done to raise money for these worthwhile causes. I now call on our President CEO, George Roy, for the presentation of service pins.
Thank you, Jessica. It is my pleasure to recognize employees who have achieved certain years of service milestones with the credit union since the last annual meeting. And since our last annual meeting, Avery Levesque, who is a teller 2 here at at our Lisbon location, Avery celebrated 5 years of service since the last annual meeting. And since the last annual meeting, we actually have four young ladies who have celebrated 10 years of service with the credit union. Jennifer Parent, who's a member service rep at our Lewiston location, is one of those. Janice Gowries, who is a teller here at the Lisbon office. Heather Brochu is one of our receptionists. She's celebrated 10 years of service. And Tanya Donovan, who is a teller at our Lewiston office, one of the tellers at the Lewiston office, she also celebrated 10 years of service. Tracy Collins, Tracy is our financial resolutions officer. She assists members who might have a difficult time maybe making their loan commitments, their loan payments, and she helps our members work through those challenges. Tracy celebrated 15 years of service here since the last annual meeting. And actually celebrating 20 years of service since our last annual meeting is Veronica Williams. Veronica is one of our member service representatives at our Lisbon office. So that is my report, Mrs. Chairman.
Thank you, George. We will now proceed to the election of directors. Since my 3-year term is up for re-election at this meeting, I now surrender control of the meeting to Timothy Plummer, chairperson of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Jessica, and good evening, everyone. The terms of 3 directors expire at the end of this annual meeting. Directors whose terms about to expire are Jessica Malloy, Heather Picard, and George Roy. I will now read the report of the nominating committee. The nominating committee posted several notices at both credit union locations concerning the election of directors to take place today on August 19, 2020. The notice informed the membership that 3 directors will be elected at this meeting. Any member interested in serving as a director was asked to send their request to the nominating committee by March 18, 2020, in order to be considered as a nominee at the annual meeting. 3 members responded to this communication. After careful consideration, the nominating committee places into nomination the following 3 members for the 3 director terms being voted upon today: Jessica L. Malloy, Heather G. Picard, and George R. Roy. This report is respectfully submitted by the nomination committee consisting of myself, Timothy Plummer, Daniel P. Michelle, and Ronald K. Parker. You've now heard the report of the nominating committee. It is your privilege to make nominations from the floor. Nominations need no second. There are 2 ways for you to nominate someone from the floor. The first way is to click on the raise your hand icon, and we will unmute you so you can submit your nomination. Again, that's on the right side of your screen. A second way is for you to click on the chat icon and type in your nomination. I now ask if there are any nominations from the floor. I ask again, are there any nominations from the floor? And I will ask a third time, are there any nominations from the floor? And I trust, Pat, there have been no nominations?
I do not see anything, Tim.
Thank you very much. Seeing no nominations from the floor, please answer the polling question that is asking whether or not you support the closing of nominations. With nominations closed and having heard no further nominations, I ask the secretary to please cast 1 ballot for the position of director, listing the names of Jessica Malloy, Heather Picard, and George Roy for terms of 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Is there any other business to come before this meeting? If you have a question, you may click on the raise your hand and arrangements will be made to unmute you. Or click on chat and type in your question and we will answer it for you. Seeing no questions or no more questions, please answer the polling question that is asking whether or not you support adjourning the meeting. Thank you for attending your 61st annual meeting on our virtual platform.
George, is there a time set for when we start the board meeting? I didn't notice on the agenda.